Hey everyone, thanks so much for gathering here to learn about branding done right. I'm here to provide guidance around what you can do to establish a solid foundation for your brand. And I'm really looking forward to sharing a bit about what I know with you. My hope is that you come away with a lot of useful information that you can apply to your own brand and business. But before we dive into branding, I'd like to share a bit about myself and my background. So my name is Kate Algera, and I am the founder and brand strategist behind Indie Pine, my brand consultancy business. I currently work and live in the Lower Hudson Valley, and over the past few years, I've enjoyed meeting others virtually to get to know more about their businesses, the problems they're looking to solve around their brand, and simply just to connect with other business owners building out their businesses and their business plans. So it's been really rewarding to meet others virtually in this capacity. That being said, I also find connecting with people in person to be an important part of building meaningful business relationships and networks. So I hope to meet more of you at chamber events or in local networking communities soon enough. Excuse me. I originally began Indie Pine with services around brand identity and website development, but these offerings have evolved over time by always starting with a foundation around brand strategy. And I decided to do this because it was obvious that when your brand strategy is clear, business owners could define a much clearer path to understanding where they wanted to take their business and how they could make steps in the right direction to get there. I could see the potential in helping people define the logistics and the emotional factors in their businesses so they could build something that grew a loyal connection to the people who wanted to hear or buy from them the most, their ideal market. So if you'd like to learn more about how brand strategy may benefit you or your business, you can learn more at my website. It's indiepine.co. All right, now let's dive into how the look, voice, and values you bring to your business are important and what you can do to start building the foundation for your brand. All right, so in this presentation, I'm going to cover a few different things about branding. First, I am going to share a few reasons why a brand crafted with a solid foundation can make such an impact for your business. Second, we'll watch the 2009 TED Talk by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And third, I'll go over what some of that foundational research can look like by sharing a few different exercises that are included in a downloadable workbook that you will have access to that you can use for your own brand and business planning. And finally, I'll share a bit about the steps that you can take after you've gone through the research process in order to best put your brand on a solid and strategic path. All right, so I like to start off this section of the presentation by asking the audience a question. Now I realize this is a recording, but in the spirit of learning, I'm going to throw this question out here anyway. Okay, so show of hands. How many of you have a brand for your business right now? You know, feel free to raise your hand, or you could say yes or no in the Zoom chat. I'll give you a second to put an answer out there. Okay, so it turns out that was actually a trick question. Like it or not, all of our businesses currently have brands, whether you've taken active steps to define your brand or not. This is because a brand is the essence of how you have how your audience perceives you. So it's the perception that people have of your business. So the best thing that you can do for your brand is work toward creating it with intention and strategy in order to shape the perception that your brand and business gives off to its customers or clients. So with all of that in mind, let's tackle why a brand created with planning, research, and strategy can make such an impact for your business. So when your brand is created with solid foundational research, the personality of your brand can be used as a feature that will resonate with your target market. You will be able to showcase what makes your business different from the competition as a positive factor. And your brand's personality and differentiation will combine in a distinct way that will make it one of a kind. When your brand is created with good research and strategy, it can help you establish a system that can be used in a variety of ways to build awareness with your target market. Your target market will start to recognize and remember your business into the future. And you will provide something for your audience to attach to and ultimately become loyal to as well. And finally, when your brand is created with solid foundational research, your business will look very credible because you will look and sound oh so presentable at all times. It will be easier to show up consistently in front of your target market, which builds their confidence in your business. And your business will look reliable and able to solve your target market's problem. So, how do we begin all this? How do we get to a place where our brands are set up to provide distinction in the market, recognition and loyalty to our biggest fans, and reliability to ourselves as business owners and to those that we serve? So let's look at the foundational level of starting with strategy. So what's strategy? Strategy in general has to do with defining a plan of action to get you from one place to another. With that in mind, brand strategy is all about getting your biggest fans, your ideal market, to fall in love with your brand and products or services. So you have an ultimate connection that lasts and is authentic to why you started your business and how you want to serve your market. The best way to lay a solid foundation is to get a clear understanding of what your brand is all about, who your ideal customer or client is, and what kind of long and short-term goals you have in mind for your business. Getting clear on your brand, customer, and goals will help you align these three areas into an actionable game plan and direction for your brand and business. So, how do we craft a brand that will provide a solid foundation for you and your business? Well, one of the biggest ways to create this foundation is to start with your why. Why do you do what you do? Why are you motivated to build your own business? And why do you want to bring it to others? To dive further into crafting your why, let's watch Simon Sinek's 2009 TED Talk called Start With Why. While this talk is coming up on 15 years old, and you'll notice its age in some of the examples discussed, its overall message is still incredibly relevant for today. So let's watch and learn.
We assume even we know why we do what we do. But then how do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, How do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products. And nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the dot-com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. and no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, "That's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology." But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you. We don't need it. We don't like it. You're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed. And it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed him not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for watching Simon's TED Talk. Let's review some takeaways from the talk. So, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So for example, it's not, we make great computers, they're beautiful and user-friendly, do you want to buy one? It's, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making beautiful designs that are user-friendly. We also happen to make great computers. Do you want to buy one? So you can see the flip there when you lead with your why. All right, let's move on to the second highlight. So the goal is not to do business. The goal is not to do business with everyone that needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people that believe what you believe. And this is grounded in the tenets of biology. Communicating from the inside out, from why, how, and what, helps you talk directly to the parts of the brain that drive behavior. All right, number 3. Talk about what you believe. People will do the things that prove what they believe. And they show up for themselves. It's what they believe. So if you can share what you believe, you're going to be able to align with people that also believe that and want to show up. And number 4, leaders hold a position of power, but those who lead inspire. So we follow those who lead because we want to for ourselves, because they confirm a belief we might have. And they are the ones that start with why. Now that we've covered some key factors of what your brand can do for you and talked about the importance of starting your foundation and strategy with your why, I want to share how you can tackle some of the other research that goes into a well-informed brand presence. So now I'm going to introduce you to some touch points that are important to the foundational research phase and the worksheets you can use to guide yourself through this process. So first up is the Business and Brand Specifics worksheet. Now is a great time to outline the specifics of your business and to ask yourself questions around your brand and business. The reason this step is so important for your research is because although you probably have a good sense of some of these answers in your mind, getting them down in writing and really thinking through on the bits and pieces you're currently working with will help you define the ways you can work toward the changes you may want for your brand and business. So here are some ideas that you'll be walking through. What is the current game plan? Your business plan. Consider things like where you started versus where you are now. What systems do you have in place right now that work? And what would you like to change or evolve? And also, identify the problems you are having right now. Getting them down in writing can help you determine how to solve them. All right. Now, write down your long-term vision. I like to call this your ultimate vision of business success. Now, these are big sweeping thoughts here. Think years down the road. It's totally expected that these visions aren't things that you or anybody could reach overnight. They'd take time, planning, and doing to get there. So, what does your ultimate vision of success look like for you and your business? Then you want to identify some short-term goals. You want to think about 3 months in advance here. What are some small, actionable steps that will move you in the direction of your ultimate vision? Now, actionable is key here. Going through this exercise can help you understand better how a brand update or a rebrand can fit into the big picture of your ultimate vision for your business. Ultimately, defining short and long-term goals can help align where you currently are with where you dream of going. The Business and Brand Specifics worksheet will help you outline where you are right now, what your ultimate vision is, and actionable steps that you can take to get closer to your business and brand vision. It's going to get you thinking about the services and products you provide and how those products or services meet a need for your audience. And it will help you consider if a brand update or a rebrand is the right step to take at this time. So get specific with your answers. Getting these answers down in writing and really thinking through how it can all fit together will help you define the direction that you want to take your brand and business in. All right, next up, let's discuss getting clear on your core values. It can be a real game changer to run your business with your own values in mind. Understanding your values also gives you new ways that you can connect with your audience. So getting clear on your why will help you focus on why you're doing what you do. It's helpful to have an understanding of this, especially during difficult periods or moments of intense decision making. You might discover that you have overlapping work and life values. When this is the case, it provides you with even more depth and authenticity that you can bring to your brand and business. You may also have a few values that only show up in your work life or your personal life, but knowing the difference gives you tools to work with in the different arenas of your life. Once you have a better understanding of your values, you can use these to further build out your brand in a way that aligns with your business. When you don't have awareness around the core values of your work and life, it makes it more challenging to make decisions that you'll ultimately be happy about. You may be more likely to say yes to something that doesn't really align with your business or your life. And over time, you may become jaded or burnt out because decisions may have eroded those values that you hold dearly. So the Core Value Clarity Worksheet will help you discover what values you hold around your work and your life. It'll help you determine if your values will hold up in your business or if they're more specific to your personal standards. And it will provide values that you can inject into your brand and business, keeping your standards at the center of your business. So take some time to go through this exercise so you don't deteriorate your morale. And take these steps to get yourself closer to whatever your guiding North Star may be. And a side note, if you have a business that has other people involved, this is a really great exercise to go through personally and then as a group, so you can define business values together. Okay. Finally, it's time to focus on your target market. Understanding who it is that you serve makes it easier to meet them where they are and for them to be curious about your business. Do you know who you need to reach? Do you really truly understand who you are trying to talk to? Who your brand needs to entice and resonate with? This is another one of those areas that we all may have a general sense of who we're trying to reach, but perhaps haven't gotten as specific as needed to really home in on that person. When you have an understanding of your target market, you can focus your attention on outreach to the right people. It will become easier to communicate and market since you know exactly who you need to be speaking to. And it becomes a cost-effective way to get specific in your marketing. You can feel much more confident that you are investing in communications that are talking to the right people, the people that you want to hear from, or the people that want to hear from your business. The big takeaway around your target market: when you target everybody, you are actually targeting nobody. It's crucial to get more pinpointed in who you are trying to speak to through your brand for the sake of your own business. So the target market definition worksheet will help you understand who your target market is. It'll help you define the problem you're solving for your target market, and it will give you a fill in the blank that provides a story about how you help your target market. There's another important reason to define exactly who your target market is. When it's time to create the visuals of your brand identity, you need to ensure that it's speaking to them and not you. One of the most missed things that seems to happen when people build the visuals of their brand is that they're catering to their own personal taste. But the truth is that you need to be catering to your target market because they're the ones that you need to attract and serve. So now that we've touched on how you can set yourself up with useful information for your brand through your foundational research, I'd like to share what you can do with that research next. So when you know who you are serving, what you provide, what makes your business unique, you can establish a solid positioning statement. At its core, a positioning statement describes how you want your brand to be perceived. This statement is often used internally with businesses as a guide to make sure the brand presence is in alignment during brand building and sharing your brand in marketing. Your positioning statement plays a big role in establishing a consistent brand presence. The positioning statement worksheet will help you articulate your target market, their needs, what makes you unique to serve them, and how you serve them. Then you'll be able to weave those declarations together to create your positioning statement. Now let's walk through an example of how all that foundational research we just discussed can help you put together your own positioning statement. So I've used some colors to help you identify the different worksheets that will help you create this statement for your business. And as you can see, this top portion is sort of the general prompt. And then I'm going to walk you through an example of how this prompt can be used. Okay, so here's the example. For curious musicians who want to explore a variety of instruments, the music room provides rentals, leases, and new and used instruments for reasonable rates because we believe creativity is meant to be explored no matter what. So when you look over this statement, this is sort of how the worksheets helped define this example. The target market definition worksheet helped define curious musicians who want to explore a variety of instruments. Business and brand specifics helped define the music room's business model of providing rentals, leases, and used instruments at reasonable rates. And the core value clarity worksheet provided the insight that curiosity, creativity, and exploration were important no matter what. So those are the three worksheets that were used to define this positioning statement. So last but not least, you may have noticed that during this presentation, we have barely talked about any visual aspects of branding. The reason for this is because what we've covered today are the integral first steps in the brand creation process before you even think about the colors, fonts, or general look and feel. This research lays the groundwork to create something that resonates with your target market and aligns with the values that you want to bring to your business. Once you've worked through the research phase around your brand and business, whether it's on your own or with someone like a brand strategist, then you can start thinking about the visual aspect of your branding, which you could do that with a brand identity designer, a graphic designer, or possibly on your own if you have some design chops and feel confident in doing that. Now, if you do consider the DIY method, I've put together this big list of many possible deliverables that could go into a brand. Not every business is going to have all of these items, so please keep that in mind when you look this over. Otherwise, it could be very overwhelming. I would consider crossing some things out that may not make sense for your business, but ultimately I wanted to provide a general sense of what can be a part of your brand once you've laid out that foundation. So I've created this graphic to give you a sense of what we've covered today. We've focused thoroughly on step 1, the foundational research of your brand. We just barely touched on step 2, which has to do with the visual identity of your brand. Hopefully this graphic here can give you a sense of the steps you can take to build a brand that's going to work well for you, from beginning stages all the way to marketing and beyond. But my main takeaway to provide to you today is that when you create a brand built on foundational research, you will be set up to better connect with your market from a place of authenticity for your business. It will make the connection between your brand and business to your market that much more clear and direct. So don't forget, you'll have access to download these whenever you'd like. And I really hope that they help you gain insights into your brand and business. And in summary, when your brand is created with foundational research, you're more likely to be perceived with distinction, loyalty, and credibility that will set you apart from competition and speak to your target market with ease and connection. So thank you so much for coming to this Branding Done Right presentation. And I hope you have some key takeaways that you can use for your own brand and business. Thanks again, and take care.